The crowd in the alien court was full of laughter. They laughed because a human stood in the center, bold and serious, while their princess mocked him. The human's name was Daniel, a traveler from Earth who had come to this strange world of towering mountains and glowing forests. He had arrived with nothing but courage. And now he faced the pride of the alien people. The alien girl stood tall on the steps of her throne, her long silver hair shining under the blue fire lamps. Her eyes glowed with amusement, and her soft voice carried across the hall like a song mixed with cruelty. "You, a human, dare to ask for my heart," she said, smiling as if the very idea was foolish. "If you want to win me, then bring me the rarest flower of this world, the one no warrior of my people has ever touched." The court erupted in laughter again, their sharp voices echoing like knives. They knew the flower she spoke of. The moonfire blossom, a legend whispered in songs. It was said to bloom only in the darkest valley where monsters ruled. Even the strongest alien hunters had failed to bring it back. The challenge was not only impossible, it was meant to humiliate the human. Daniel's heart pounded, but he did not step back. He had seen their laughter. He had heard their insults, and yet he felt no shame. His eyes stayed locked on hers, calm but steady. "If that is your challenge, Princess," he said, "then I accept." The alien girl raised her eyebrows. Surprised at his answer, she had expected him to bow, to retreat, to run away from the hall in shame. Instead, the human spoke with a voice that carried both strength and gentleness. It was the kind of voice that made even the elders pause for a moment. "Do you not know the dangers, little human?" the alien girl asked, her smile curling like a blade. "The valley of the moonfire is filled with beasts. The ground itself will swallow you, and storms of fire will burn your skin." Her words were meant to scare him, but Daniel only gave a small nod. "Perhaps," he answered. "But even the rarest flower must bloom for someone, and I will find it." The court went silent for a brief moment, shocked at the bravery in his words. Then the laughter returned, louder than before. But hidden in their voices was something else: Tuni's curiosity, maybe even respect. The alien girl leaned forward, her silver crown glinting. "Very well," she said. "Go then, and seek the flower that no one has ever touched." Her voice was like silk wrapping around steel, both soft and sharp. "If you succeed, human, I will keep my word. But if you fail, your bones will be left in the wilds as a warning to all who dream too high." Daniel bowed his head once, not in defeat, but in promise. He turned and walked out of the great hall, his steps echoing against the marble floor. Every eye followed him, some mocking, some whispering, and one pair, hers, watching with something more than laughter. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps doubt. Perhaps the first spark of something she did not yet understand. Outside the hall, the alien sky stretched wide, painted with 2 moons and 1,000 stars. The wind carried the scent of unknown flowers, but none as rare as the one he now sought. He tightened his grip on the small pack he carried, his heart beating faster with every step away from the safety of the city. His journey was beginning, and he knew it would test not only his strength, but his very soul. In the high tower of the court, the alien girl still stood, gazing out the window at the human disappearing into the night, her lips curved into a half-smile. Though she did not know why, she had given him the challenge only to watch him fail, to laugh when he returned, broken or not at all. But as the stars burned above, she whispered softly to herself, "Strange human, why do you not fear?" The city lights faded behind Daniel as he walked into the darkness. The land ahead was wild, filled with shadows that moved and eyes that glowed. The sound of creatures echoed through the night, a warning of what awaited him. Still, he walked forward, every step carrying him closer to danger and closer to destiny. The alien girl turned away from the window, yet her thoughts remained with him. She told herself it was only curiosity, nothing more. But deep inside, she felt a strange pull, as if the challenge she had given would not end as she expected. The rarest flower was waiting, and so was a truth she had never imagined, and so began the journey of a single human, standing against the laughter of an alien world. One man who dared to accept the impossible, not for pride, not for power, but for a chance at something greater. The challenge of the alien girl had been spoken, and the human had accepted. The first step into legend had been taken. Daniel left the alien city behind. Walking into the endless dark wilderness, the laughter of the court still echoed in his mind. Yet it did not weaken him. It only fueled his steps. Every alien who had mocked him believed he would never return. But Daniel carried a fire in his heart, a quiet determination that could not be crushed. The land outside the city was not welcoming. Strange trees rose like giants, their glowing leaves bending toward him as if curious about this lone traveler. The ground was covered in silver moss that sparkled under the twin moons, and shadows moved between the rocks like living spirits. The wind carried cries that did not sound human, long wails of creatures that owned the night. Daniel tightened the straps of his small pack and pressed forward. He had no map, no guide. Only the words of the alien girl and the legends whispered by her people. The valley of the Moonfire Blossom lay far beyond mountains, rivers, and cursed swamps. Each step felt heavier. But each step also carried him closer to the truth of his challenge. On the second night of his journey, Daniel stopped near a ridge where glowing water flowed down like a liquid star. He set a small fire with the tools he carried, its warm glow fighting back the darkness, but the night did not stay silent, for soon he heard low growls circling around him. From the shadows came a pack of alien beasts, their bodies lean and covered in blue scales, eyes burning like coals. Daniel's heart raced, but he held his ground. The beasts circled, testing him. One snapping its jaw with teeth like sharp glass. He knew he could not fight them all with strength alone, so he reached into his pack and pulled out dried meat from his supplies, tossing it far into the darkness. The beasts turned, rushing after the scent, their hunger stronger than their hatred. Daniel exhaled slowly, realizing his cleverness had saved his life. For days he traveled deeper into the wilds. The sun here was pale, weak against the endless forests, and storms rolled across the sky with little warning. Rain that burned like acid fell on the leaves, hissing as it touched the ground. Daniel used his cloak to shield himself, pressing forward no matter how harsh the land became. At times, he wondered why he continued. Was it pride? Was it the alien girl's challenge, or something else? He remembered her eyes, shining like silver fire, filled with arrogance, but also with a strange sadness. He told himself it was only the challenge that pushed him. But deep inside, he knew he wanted to prove something more, not only to her, but to every alien who doubted him. On the seventh day, he reached the Black River. Its waters were thick and dark, moving like living shadows, and the air smelled of iron. A broken bridge of ancient stones stretched across, covered in vines and half sunk into the water. Daniel tested it carefully, each step echoing with the groan of stone ready to fall halfway across. A shape moved in the water below, massive and silent. A single golden eye opened, staring at him. From the depths, Daniel froze, his breath caught. The creature below was larger than any beast he had seen, scales like metal, wings folded tight against its body. It rose slowly, the bridge shaking as the water churned. Daniel ran, the stones crumbling beneath his boots as the beast lunged upward, teeth snapping at empty air. With one last, desperate leap, he reached the other side, rolling onto the mud as the bridge collapsed. Behind him, the river swallowed the stones with a roar, the beast vanishing once more into the black water. Daniel lay there, panting, his body shaking, but his spirit unbroken. Night fell again, and he built another fire under the hollow of a great tree as the flames flickered. He heard soft footsteps nearby, not beastly, but light, cautious, curious. He turned and saw small, alien creatures no taller than his knee, with glowing eyes and feather-like arms. They chirped softly, tilting their heads as they studied him. Daniel did not raise his knife. Instead, he held out a piece of food. Smiling gently, the small creatures approached, sniffed, and took it. Their glowing eyes warming with trust, they sat near his fire, humming a soft song as if thanking him. Daniel smiled to himself, realizing something. Even in the wilds, kindness created allies, and perhaps these little ones might guide him when the time came. The alien girl had said no one ever returned from the Valley of the Moonfire, but Daniel believed there was more to the land than death and danger. There was life. There was beauty, and there was something waiting for him, hidden in the shadows of the forbidden wilds. Far away, back in the alien court, the princess stood once more at her tower window. Her people had already forgotten the human, certain he had perished in the wild. But she could not stop herself from wondering. She whispered to herself, "Has the little human already fallen, or is he still walking?" Her heart told her he still walked, and for the first time in her life, she did not laugh at the thought. The wilds stretched on, dangerous and endless, but Daniel walked forward. Every wound, every scar, every step only made him stronger. The human had entered the forbidden wilds, and the land itself seemed ready to test his spirit, but Daniel did not fear, for he had accepted the challenge, and he would not turn back. The wilds grew darker with every step Daniel took. The air itself seemed heavy, filled with mist that clung to his skin like cold fingers. The forests whispered with voices that did not belong to men, and eyes glimmered from the branches above. It was as if the land wished to break him. Body and soul, Daniel's clothes were torn, his boots covered in mud, and hunger gnawed at his stomach. He had eaten the last of his dried food 2 days ago, surviving only on bitter roots and strange fruits he found. His throat ached from thirst, his muscles from endless climbing, yet he pressed on. Every step was a battle. Not against the land alone, but against the weight pressing inside his heart. At night, when the twin moons rose, Daniel sat near small fires he built with shaking hands. The silence of the wilds was never true silence, for there were always distant cries of beasts, and the rustle of unseen wings. Sleep came in small pieces, broken by nightmares of silver eyes laughing. He would wake, sweating, remembering the alien girl's smile when she gave him the impossible task. The sound of her voice haunted him, mocking yet strangely beautiful one morning as he crossed a valley of black stone. His strength finally gave way, his knees buckled, and he fell to the ground, his chest heaving. For a long moment he lay there, staring at the pale sun that hung weakly in the sky. The thought whispered in his mind, why continue? Why fight when even the strongest of her people had failed? But then another voice rose inside him, softer but stronger. He remembered Earth, the endless fields of green, the laughter of children, the faces of those who believed humans were weak. He remembered the day he stood in the alien court, when all had laughed except him. And he remembered the small creatures of the forest, their glowing eyes filled with trust when he fed them. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. "This is not the place where I fall," he whispered. His voice rough but steady. His journey carried him into swamps that bubbled with poison. The ground sucked at his boots, pulling him down with every step. Strange insects buzzed in the air, their wings sharp as blades. One cut across his arm, leaving a burning wound. Yet Daniel gritted his teeth and pressed forward. He covered his skin with mud to hide his scent, tricking the insects until they flew away. Every challenge demanded not only strength, but wit. And Daniel learned quickly that survival meant more than swinging a blade. One evening he found a small rise of stone where clear water pooled. He bent down and drank, the cool taste filling his throat with life again. As he rested, a figure appeared. On the ridge above him, it was not beast nor spirit, but a tall, alien hunter. Armor scarred and weapon glowing with strange fire, the hunter's eyes were hard and his voice was sharp. "You are the human who walks to the Moonfire Valley," he said. Daniel nodded, his hand near his knife, but not drawing it. The hunter laughed bitterly. "Many have tried, none return. You walk toward death." Daniel's reply was simple, "Maybe, but death is better than turning back." The hunter studied him for a long moment, then threw a pouch to the ground before disappearing into the mist. Inside, Daniel found dried meat and healing herbs. It seemed even those who mocked him could not ignore his will to continue. Perhaps in their laughter there was also respect. Days blurred together, each one filled with struggle. Daniel's body was bruised, cut, and weary, yet his spirit grew stronger with every hardship. He began to see patterns in the land, learning which plants healed, which creatures warned of storms, which paths led to safety. The wilds had tried to break him, but instead they were shaping him. Not into a warrior of brute force, but into something rarer. A man who endured, who adapted, who refused to surrender. One night, under the silver glow of the moons, Daniel sat beside his fire and stared into the flames. He felt the weight of his loneliness, the crushing silence of a world where no other human had ever walked, and yet he did not feel weak. He whispered to the fire, as if speaking to himself. "If the flower blooms only for the one who dares the impossible, then let it bloom for me, far away, in her high tower." The alien princess sat restless. Her people had already forgotten about the human, but she could not. She imagined him, lying dead in the swamps or lost in the black valleys. Yet something in her heart told her he was still moving. She shook her head, annoyed at herself, yet the whisper in her mind grew louder. What if he truly finds it in the wilds? Daniel lifted his head as the wind carried the faintest scent of something sweet. It was unlike any flower he had known, gentle but powerful. He followed it through the dark trees, his heart beating faster. He did not know yet, but this was the first sign. The rarest flower was not only real, it was waiting. And so he walked, weary yet unbroken, his spirit burning brighter than the twin moons above. The wilds had tested Daniel's body, but now they began to test his spirit in ways he did not expect. The sweet scent he had followed grew stronger as he moved deeper into the land, leading him through forests of crystal leaves and across cliffs where the winds screamed like a living beast. The path was not marked, yet he felt as if the land itself was guiding him, whispering secrets through every shadow and every breeze. By the 10th night of his journey, he reached an ancient ruin hidden between jagged cliffs. The stones were black with age, carved with symbols of a language older than the alien court itself. Daniel's fingers brushed over the markings, and he felt something stir inside him. It was not fear, but a strange pull, as if the ruins remembered him, or remembered humanity. In the center of the ruins stood a broken statue, its shape almost human, but its eyes carved like stars. At the statue's feet grew a small cluster of pale flowers, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Daniel knelt beside them, his heart beating fast. Could this be the moonfire blossom, the flower the princess had spoken of? He reached for it, but as his hand touched the stem, the petals turned to dust, vanishing into the wind. Daniel froze, realizing the truth. This was only an echo, a shadow of the real flower. The moonfire blossom was not just rare, it was sacred, tied to something far greater than any court legend. The ruins seemed to whisper the truth. The flower blooms only where life and death meet, only where courage touches sacrifice. He rose, shaken but not defeated. The journey was far from over. But now he understood that this was not only a test of strength, it was a test of his heart. The flower was not meant for those who sought glory or pride, but for those willing to risk everything without promise of reward, as he left the ruins. A storm gathered in the sky. Dark clouds rolled over. The moons, lightning flashing like the claws of gods, rain fell in burning sheets, striking the ground with sizzling force. Daniel ran for cover, finding a cave cut deep into the mountainside. Inside, the air was heavy and cold, and strange bones lay scattered. Across the floor, he lit a small fire, its glow flickering against the cave walls. In the shadows, he saw carvings that told more of the flower's story. They showed hunters, warriors, even kings, all reaching for the blossom and all falling. Into darkness, at the end of the wall, one carving stood apart. A figure not of alien form, but something closer to human. Holding the glowing flower with both hands, Daniel stared at it, his chest tightening. It was as if the cave itself was waiting for him. As if the legend had always been waiting for a human that night. As the storm raged outside, Daniel dreamed. In his dream, he stood in a valley filled with fire and shadows. At the center of it bloomed the moonfire blossom, its petals shining with silver light. But before he could reach it, a voice echoed through the valley. Not cruel, not mocking, but sorrowful. You will not find the flower with hands of greed, only with hands of sacrifice. He woke with the echo still in his mind, his body shaking with both fear and hope. The storm had passed, and the world outside glowed fresh under the light of dawn. Daniel stepped from the cave, his heart heavy yet steady. He knew now that the moonfire blossom was not just a flower to be found. It was a truth to be earned. His path carried him higher, into the mountains where the air thinned and the wind cut like knives. Snow fell in slow, heavy flakes, covering the jagged rocks in silence. There, high above the world, he found a narrow bridge of ice stretching across a bottomless chasm. Each step he took sent cracks through the frozen path. But he moved carefully, refusing to look down. Halfway across, he slipped, his hand catching a sharp edge of ice, blood dripping onto the frozen surface. For a moment, he dangled over the abyss, death yawning below. But with a cry of effort, he pulled himself back, his hands raw, his body trembling. As he reached the other side, he noticed something strange where his blood had fallen. A small sprout of glowing green had pushed through the ice. Daniel stared at it, realization striking him. The flower was not just born from soil, but from sacrifice, from the meeting of pain and life. The legends had been true. That night, he camped at the edge of the high cliffs. The stars burning bright above, he whispered to himself, "The flower is alive. It grows where spirit is tested, where death stands close." His journey was shaping into something far greater than the alien girl's cruel challenge. It was no longer about proving himself to her court. It was about proving something to the universe itself, far away in the alien palace. The princess found herself pacing her chamber. Her people had stopped speaking of the human, yet her thoughts returned to him again and again. She told herself it was foolish, but she could not deny the question that haunted her. What if he was still alive? What if he truly found the flower? The thought unsettled her, not because it was impossible, but because a part of her heart wished it were true. And in the wilds, Daniel stood at the edge of the world, his spirit tested, his blood already given to the land. The secret of the moonfire blossom was no longer hidden from him. He knew now that the path ahead would demand not only his strength, but his very soul. And still, he walked forward. The mountains gave way to a hidden valley, one that seemed untouched by time. Daniel stood at its edge, staring in silence. The air itself shimmered with a silver glow. In the center of the valley, surrounded by black stone and flowing rivers of fire, bloomed a single flower. Its petals burned like living light, casting a glow brighter than the moon's. It was the moonfire blossom, the very heart of his journey, the dream of legends, the impossible prize. But Daniel did not step forward, for between him and the flower stood a figure, tall and terrible, carved of both flesh and stone, the guardian. The protector of the valley, the one spoken of in whispers by those who never returned. Its eyes glowed with endless fire, and its voice shook the very ground. Human, it said, you stand where none of your kind should stand. You seek what none of your kind should touch. Daniel's body trembled, but his spirit did not break. I seek only what was asked of me, he said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing. At his heart, the flower is my trial, my answer, my path forward. The guardian stepped closer, each footfall cracking the earth like thunder. You think strength will win this? You think courage alone is enough? But this trial is not for warriors. It is for souls. The words burned into Daniel. He remembered the carvings, the ruins, the dreams that warned him. The flower could not be taken by hands of greed. It had to be earned by something greater. The guardian raised its massive arm, and in its hand formed a weapon of light and shadow. Daniel gripped his small blade, though he knew it was nothing against such power. The battle began, not with steel, but with will. The guardian moved like a storm, its strikes shaking the valley. Each one strong enough to break stone. Daniel dodged, stumbled, rolled across the scorched earth, his body screaming with pain. Every strike came closer, every breath harder, yet he refused to run. He fought not with strength, but with endurance. Rising each time he fell, his spirit blazing with stubborn fire. Hours seemed to pass, though it may have only been moments. Daniel's arm bled, his legs weakened, but his eyes still burned with resolve. Finally, the guardian lowered its weapon, its gaze heavy with something deeper than anger. You do not fight to conquer, it said. You fight to endure. You fight to protect something unseen. Daniel dropped his blade, his chest heaving. I fight not for pride, not for myself, not even for her challenge, he said, his voice raw. I fight because the world cannot laugh at what it does not understand. Because even a human life can prove worthy. The valley fell silent, the rivers of fire calming. The guardian studied him, its fiery eyes softening. It lowered its head, slightly, as if bowing. Then you have passed the trial, it said. Its voice no longer thunder, but echoing like a distant song. The moonfire blossom is not given to those who seek glory. It is given to those who carry sacrifice in their soul. The ground shifted, and the flower's glow grew brighter. Daniel stepped forward, every step heavy yet certain. He knelt before the moonfire blossom, his hand trembling as he reached out. This time, the petals did not turn to dust. They bent gently toward him, as if welcoming his touch. The silver light spread across his hand, filling him with warmth, with strength, with peace. Tears burned in his eyes as he lifted the flower. Not because it was victory, but because it was truth. He had not won by defeating the guardian, but by proving that humanity's spirit was more than defiance. It was compassion. It was endurance. It was sacrifice. The guardian stepped aside, fading into shadow, its task complete. You may take the flower, human, it said, but no. Its gift is not only for her, it is for all who see you. Daniel bowed his head, not in pride, but in gratitude. The moonfire blossom pulsed with living light in his hands. He turned, stepping out of the valley, his body weak, but his soul burning. Brighter than ever before, every scar, every wound, every hardship had led him here. And none of it was wasted. Far away, in her palace of silver stone, the alien princess felt something stir. A strange warmth touched her heart. A whisper she could not understand. She stood by her window, staring at the twin moons, her thoughts. Unwilling to leave the human she had mocked, For the first time, she felt unease, not from doubt, but from fear that he might truly succeed. And though she told herself she would laugh if he returned, her heart told her something else entirely. In the wilds, Daniel walked onward, the moonfire blossom glowing in his hand. The trial of the guardian was over, but another trial awaited him. He had to return to the court, stand before the princess and her people, and when he did, there, laughter would die in their throats, for one human had done the impossible. The journey back to the alien city was no less dangerous than the path that had led Daniel to the moonfire blossom. His body was battered, his wounds still raw, and every step carried the weight of exhaustion. Yet in his hand glowed the silver light of the blossom, its petals alive with quiet fire. That light guided him through swamps, forests, and broken mountains, as if the world itself bent to clear his way. On the 15th night since he left the court, Daniel reached the gates of the alien city. The guards froze when they saw him, their eyes wide with disbelief. No human was expected to return, not from the forbidden wilds, not from the valley of the moonfire. They whispered among themselves, some frightened, some in awe, as Daniel stepped forward, limping but unbroken. Word spread quickly, rushing through the city like wildfire. By the time Daniel reached the palace, the great hall was already filled. Nobles, warriors, and common folk crowded together, their sharp voices rising in disbelief. At the center, the alien princess sat on her throne, her silver crown glinting. Her lips curved in a mocking smile that did not hide the storm in her eyes. The hall fell silent when Daniel entered. His clothes were torn, his skin bruised, and yet his steps carried strength. Every eye followed him, not in laughter now, but in shock. In his hand he held the moonfire blossom, its glow filling the hall. Silencing even the most prideful voices, the princess leaned forward, her voice sharp as a blade, though her heart beat faster than she wished. "You dare return, human," she said, though her words carried less mockery than before. Daniel lifted the blossom high, its petals shining like living stars. "I do not dare," he answered simply. "I only do what I promised." Gasps rippled through the hall. The alien elders whispered to each other, some furious, others shaken. The moonfire blossom had been only legend to them, a story to frighten children and test fools. Yet here stood a human, holding it as if it had chosen him. The princess rose from her throne, her silver hair falling like a river of light across her shoulders, her eyes locked on the flower, then on him. "You should not have returned," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "No one has ever returned." Daniel met her gaze, tired but unyielding. "Perhaps no one tried with the right heart," he said. "I did not seek the flower for pride, nor to humiliate your people. I sought it because you asked, because you challenged me, and because I believe even a human life has worth." The hall stirred, voices rising in argument, some furious, others stunned. A warrior shouted, "It is a trick. No man could carry the moonfire." But the blossom pulsed in Daniel's hand, glowing brighter, its light casting shadows across every face. The flower itself seemed to answer, proving that it was no illusion. The princess stepped down from her throne, her long robe trailing like silver flame. She stopped before Daniel, closer than she had ever been. Her eyes searched his face, seeing not only his wounds, but the fire that still burned in his spirit. "You should be dead," she whispered, half to him, half to herself, "and yet here you stand, human." Daniel bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but in respect. "I stand because I refuse to fall," he said, his voice low but steady. The princess's heart twisted. Though she hid it behind calm features, she had given him the challenge to mock him, to break him, but instead he had broken her certainty. Now she faced the truth. Her words had bound her, and her pride would not allow her to escape. The elders demanded she keep her promise. Some protested, furious at the idea of their princess bound to a human. Others nodded in grim silence. The court that once laughed now stood divided. And at the center of it all was one human holding the impossible flower. The princess raised her hand, silencing the hall. Her gaze never left Daniel as she spoke. Her voice clear and strong. I gave a challenge. And he has returned with what none of us ever could. The moonfire blossom itself. Her words echoed across the hall. Silencing the whispers, I cannot deny what I see, and I will not break my word. Gasps rose again. Shock spreading through the court, some stared in fury, others in awe, and still others in quiet admiration, but none dared laugh. Not now. Not with the glowing flower filling the hall with its light. The princess turned back to Daniel, her silver eyes softer now. Though pride still burned in them, you have done the impossible. Human, she said, her voice trembling just slightly. Perhaps you are not like the others, I mocked. Daniel looked at her, weary but firm. I did not come to prove what humans can do. I came because you asked, and I keep my promises. His words struck her harder than the blossom itself, for they carried no pride, no demand, only truth. The hall erupted again, but Daniel did not hear it. His body swayed, his strength at last. Failing him, the journey, the battles, the wounds, it was all too much. He fell to one knee. Still clutching the blossom, its glow wrapping him in silver fire. The princess stepped forward quickly, her hand reaching out before she could stop. Herself, for the first time, she touched him. Steadying him, her lips parted, but no words came. Only the truth burning inside her heart. The human had done the impossible, and he had changed everything. Asterisk, the great hall of the alien court was silent. The glowing light of the moonfire, blossom, still filled the air, wrapping the walls in silver fire. Daniel knelt at the center. Weak and trembling, yet unbroken, the princess stood beside him. Her hand resting lightly on his shoulder, her eyes filled with emotions she did not wish her people to see. For the first time in memory, the court did not laugh. No sharp voices of mockery. No songs of arrogance, only silence. Every noble, every warrior, every elder stared at the human with wide eyes. They had mocked him, dismissed him, expected his bones to rot in the forbidden wilds. But he had returned, holding the impossible in his hand. The princess drew a slow breath, her voice carrying across the hall like music. The challenge I gave was cruel, meant only to shame. And yet he has done what none of us could, she said. I am bound by my word. As is our way, and I will not break it. Her voice was steady. Though her heart raced, to her people, she was their pride, their fire. Yet at this moment she felt something she had never allowed herself to feel. Respect, the elders protested, their robes swaying as they stepped forward. This cannot be allowed, one cried. A human cannot stand beside our princess, but others shook their heads, their eyes still fixed on the glowing flower. The moonfire chose him. An old voice whispered, we cannot deny the truth of the blossom. Daniel pushed himself to his feet, though his body shook with weakness. He met their gazes. Calm and unafraid. I did not come here to steal honor from you, nor to break your ways, he said. I came because she asked, because I was challenged. Because I will not turn my back when a promise is given. The princess's silver eyes widened and something inside her shifted. This human had faced the wilds, endured the guardian, and returned not with arrogance, but with humility. It was not power that had brought him here. It was spirit, and for the first time, she felt her pride bend, not in shame, but in understanding. She stepped closer, her voice soft now. Meant for him alone, you should hate me, she whispered. For mocking you, for sending you to death. Daniel looked at her, his expression tired yet gentle. "I do not hate you," he answered, "without your challenge. I would never have found the truth of the flower. I would never have proved." What a human heart can endure. Her chest tightened, the weight of her pride battling against the warmth rising within her. In her life, she had seen warriors kneel before her, kings bow, enemies beg. But never had she seen someone stand so wounded, so broken, and yet so unyielding. Her lips trembled. And for once, she had no words of mockery, only silence. The court watched, holding its breath, as the princess lowered her head ever so slightly. A gesture she had never given to anyone. She took the blossom from Daniel's hand, holding it as if it were a treasure. Its glow wrapped around her, and in that moment she understood the flower had not chosen him to humiliate her. It had chosen him to show her the truth. Gasps echoed through the hall, for the princess, proud and unbending, stood at the human's side with the blossom in her hands. The elders fell silent, the warriors bowed their heads, and the people whispered words that none had spoken before. "Perhaps humans are not weak." Someone murmured, "Perhaps they are something else." Daniel stood straighter, though his body cried for rest. He looked not at the crowd, but at her. In her eyes, he no longer saw only silver fire, but something softer, something almost tender. Her heart was no longer closed, and he could feel it, even without words. She turned back to the court, her voice stronger than ever. "This human has done the impossible, and by our law, by my word, he has earned my heart." The words struck like thunder, but none dared laugh. The court that had once mocked was now silent, forced to face the truth. Daniel's heart ached, not from wounds, but from the weight of what had been won. He had come for a challenge, but found something far greater. Not just respect, not just honor, but a bond born of fire and struggle. A bond that even an alien princess could not deny. The princess glanced at him, her voice softer once more. "You have changed me," she whispered. "And perhaps you have changed more than me." Daniel smiled faintly, weary but alive. "I did not come to change you," he said. "I only came to keep my promise." The moonfire blossom glowed brighter. As if answering his words, the hall, once filled with laughter, now stood in reverent silence. For in that moment, a human had not only won a challenge, he had won the heart of a people, and perhaps, in time, the heart of a princess who had once thought herself untouchable, far above. The twin moons shone over the alien city. Their light touched the towers, the forests, and the valley where the blossoms still grew. The legend had changed. The world had changed, and at the center of it all stood one weary human and one alien girl, bound not by mockery, but by respect, by promise, and by something far greater.